and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode. In today's video, I'm going to do a game preview of my Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants. I'm going to be running over both the offensive and defensive matchups, the ones that I feel are most impactful for this game. I'm also going to be giving you guys my X factors from each team, as well as 3 keys to victory for both of them. Like the video if you would be so kind, and please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. We are working our way to our first 1,000 subscribers. If you haven't done it yet, you can be a part of the journey with us. Make sure you check out my shorts both on YouTube and on TikTok as well. And now let's get into this Relentless Rundown. On Sunday afternoon is a big match between the number 3 seed Minnesota Vikings and the number 6 seed New York Giants. Minnesota won in this matchup just 3 weeks ago on a 61-yard field goal as time expired. This is the Vikings' first home playoff game since the Minneapolis Miracle in 2018. New York has fallen apart a bit down the stretch, going 2-5-1 over their last 8 games after a hot start. Minnesota has been playing with fire all year long, but held onto the 3 seed with some clutch wins. They won 3 of their last 4 games. In a prove-it year for both quarterbacks, each has stepped up in different ways. Daniel Jones has stuffed the stat sheet, recording career highs in completion percentage, passing yards, rushing yards, and quarterback rating. He also set a career low with just 5 picks. That last bit is probably the most important. By protecting the football, Jones has allowed the players around him to give him the support that he needs for the team to be successful. The result is the Giants' first playoff appearance since 2016. Danny Dimes is one of the most underrated mobile quarterbacks in the league. His 708 yards on the ground ranked 5th in the NFL at the quarterback position, just 52 and 54 yards behind MVP candidates Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. It's been a different path for Kirk Cousins, completely opposite from Jones, in fact. By all accounts, Cousins is having the worst statistical season he's ever had for the Vikings. He's doubled the picks and thrown 4 less touchdowns from last year and posted his worst completion percentage in a season since 2017. How then did the Vikings win 13 games and dominate the division? Allow me to introduce you to Kirk Chains. Cousins' alter ego doesn't care about picks, tight windows, or getting crushed as he's heaving the ball downfield. He's fearless, confident, and elite. At the core of the situation, that has been the difference. Cousins has flipped the script this season, becoming nigh unstoppable in the 4th quarter. He's top 10 in the NFL in yards, completion percentage, and QBR when it's mattered most. Kirk tied an NFL record with 8 4th quarter comebacks this season. Instead of shrinking in the big time moments, Kirko has excelled. It is that transformation that has carried Minnesota to a top 3 seed. Of course, he has had some help, none greater than what Justin Jefferson has offered him. Jet is the best wideout in the league, don't at me, and made good on his word that he gave before the season started to become just that. Jefferson's 1,809 yards led the league. He scored 8 touchdowns and performed plenty of gritties along the way. He's got one of the best sets of hands in the NFL, can break corners' ankles in 5 yards or less, and has the speed to take the top off in addition. Jefferson is the complete package. Adam Thielen hasn't been half bad either, although it is clear he has lost a step. Hooked on a Thielen totaled 716 yards and 6 scores, remaining a top-tier red zone threat and possession receiver. Then there's the emergence of KJ Osborne, who has 2 100-yard games in the last 4 weeks. The rebound from a very slow start was much needed and gives the Vikings even more juice to a passing attack that was 6th best in the NFL. The Giants are basically everything Minnesota is not at wideout. They've cobbled together decent output from a handful of players, but there isn't a true number 1 and probably not even a number 2 in New York. That being said, Darius Slay has flashed and eclipsed 700 yards as the main target more often than not. Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins have made the jump from rotational guys to actual contributors. Considering the injuries they've faced at the position, it is more than they could have hoped for. James has come on as of late, leading the team in yardage in 4 straight prior to their off game against Philly in Week 18. Thankfully for the Giants, college teams could air it out with ease against the Vikings. Minnesota allowed the second most passing yards on the year, surrendering over 265 per game. That's 50 yards a contest more than New York, who settled in just above league average. Daniel Jones lit up the purple secondary for 334 yards in one of the best games of his career in their first matchup, and it is certainly in the range of possibilities that he does that again. The ground attacks are pretty much even for these two teams. Dalvin Cook has been solid for the Vikings, racking up 1,173 yards on the ground to go along with nearly 300 yards receiving. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry and was able to keep Minnesota on schedule more often than not. Cook isn't the same guy he was even 2 years ago, but he's still an elite talent and a handful to bring down. The numbers for Barkley are eerily similar. 1,312 yards, but the same 4.4 average and 338 yards receiving. Like Cook, he scored 10 touchdowns. Barkley's torrid pace to begin the season was never sustainable, but there is some concern with how he ended it. After going for 152 yards on an ungodly 35 carries in Week 10, Barkley has yet to get back over even 90 rushing yards in a game. Last week's rest, however, may change things, and I wouldn't be surprised if he one-upped his effort the last time these two teams met up. In that matchup, Saquon went for 133 total yards and a score. Trying to contain these backs won't be easy, but the Giants do have an advantage. After a 4-game stretch where they gave up over 150 rushing yards every time out, New York has rebounded over their last 3. The 4.3 yards per carry they've allowed in that span is just average, but it looks absolutely incredible next to the Vikings. Minnesota has given up 5.4 yards per carry in their last 3, 7th most in the league. If the Giants can leverage this mismatch and get another big game from Danny Dimes, we are likely to see yet another game involving Minnesota and a final possession with a game on the line. Finally, we slowly meander to tight end. A major advantage for Minnesota. Daniel Bellinger has been fine when healthy for Big Blue, but his 268 yards and 2 touchdowns pale in comparison to what TJ Hawkinson brings to the table. The deal at the deadline to get him was masterful and has paid off in a big way. Hawk has become the number 2 option in the passing attack for a Vikings team that didn't exactly need another weapon. On the season, he scored 6 times while racking up 914 yards. He also dominated New York just a couple of weeks ago, going for 109 yards and 2 tutties. It is safe to assume the Giants will come in with a game plan to shut him down, but after he mossed 2 of them on his second touchdown against them, I am not sure how successful that will be. This game will come down to defense, but for a different reason than it normally does. As far as total defense is concerned, Minnesota ranked 31st and the Giants were 25th. So I don't think either of these teams slow down each other that much. They combined for nearly 800 total yards in their first meeting, so it'll be a timely stop by one of them that could very well decide this game. For the X factors in this game, the Vikings one is Kirk Cousins. He has been great all year when it has mattered most. Now let's see it in the playoffs with your season on the line. If he crumbles here, all that he's accomplished in 2022 is likely forgotten. For the New York Giants, it is Saquon Barkley. It is going to be vital that he shows up in a big way to take some pressure off of Daniel Jones in his first career playoff start. Quads has the ability to take over this game. My keys to victory for the Vikings are to create a timely turnover. They've been great at doing that all season long. They must also stop the run and not allow Saquon Barkley to get going. And finally, win in the red zone, another area that they have been great in on the season. For the Giants, number 1 is to protect Daniel Jones. They have to let him get at least somewhat comfortable here. They also need to get Saquon going. They're going to have to lean on him to be able to stick with Minnesota. Finally, and maybe most importantly, quiet the crowd. They have to find a way to get them out of it. US Bank Stadium can get real crazy real fast, and if that crowd takes over and the energy starts ramping up, the Giants are going to be in a lot of trouble. That's it. All I got for you guys in the video. Really hope you enjoyed this game preview. Please drop any questions or comments you have down below. I love the engagement. Like the video if you enjoyed the content today, and then subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and I will see you next time.